Bitcoin bull Vivek Ramaswamy, who is part of Donald Trump's advisory team, now wants to get a Bitcoin Bond ETF approved. That's ultra crazy because it means that Vivek Ramaswamy is actively trying to push the Bitcoin price up. So here we have the next member of the Donald Trump advisory team who wants to pump the Bitcoin price. Additionally, this means that retail Bitcoin investors now have access to MicroStrategy convertible bonds through this Bitcoin Bond ETF. So far, these convertible bonds could only be purchased by institutional investors, and they are the most sought-after bonds, maybe really the hottest ones in the world right now or in the Bitcoin space or whatever. In any case, they are always totally oversold. More people want these bonds than there are available on the market, and they sell like hotcakes. They're definitely always totally oversold. So, more people want these bonds than there are available on the market, and they sell like hotcakes. That's ultra crazy. Additionally, this means that MicroStrategy will now benefit even more because even more capital is flowing into MicroStrategy. Additionally, this also means that Vivek Ramaswamy might have insider information, since he's shaping this ETF with his own company, and there are definitely conflicts of interest here. There's definitely a bit of a sketchy vibe because it could be that some kind of insider deal is happening. Maybe Vivek Ramaswamy has information that other people don't have yet. Why else would he rely so heavily on Bitcoin? Why else would he be launching a Bitcoin Bond ETF if he doesn't have direct, first-hand information from Donald Trump that Trump is going all in on Bitcoin, maybe even implementing a Bitcoin reserve strategy or whatever? Now, there's also quite a bit of criticism coming up. On one hand, it's ultra bullish because it opens up new access for even more investors to Bitcoin, but on the other hand, the criticism is starting to roll in. We're going to take a look at everything that's going on with this. There is now also some criticism here, which means that on the one hand, it is ultra bullish because it gives new access to even more investors for Bitcoin, but on the other hand, criticism is now emerging. We're going to take a look at everything that's going on with this. ETF expert Eric Balchunas says here that Vivek's ETF company has applied for a Bitcoin Bond ETF that will use swaps to replicate convertible bonds issued to buy Bitcoin. So essentially, basically, it's a MicroStrategy convertible bond ETF until other companies do the same. MicroStrategy's convertible bonds are in high demand. They offer Bitcoin's upside without its volatility. These bonds are only available to institutional investors. Vivek Ramaswamy is turning this vehicle into an ETF for retail investors. Michael Saylor offers the optimal vehicle here, but these convertible bonds are only available to institutional people. So you have to make a minimum investment of who knows how much. I don't know exactly how much, but you can't just buy a few Satoshis or something like that for $20 or €20 like with Bitcoin. You have to put in really decent sums of money. And now Vivek Ramaswamy is turning this awesome vehicle into an ETF and offering it to retail investors. So that means you, or let's say the little guys, will have the chance to invest in this in the future. Maybe not you, since you're in Germany or Europe. I think this will probably only be possible in the US. But US retail investors will have access to Bitcoin convertible bonds from MicroStrategy. This is going to push the Bitcoin price, it's going to boost MicroStrategy, and it's likely going to pump Vivek Ramaswamy's own bags too, because that's the big criticism coming up now. He's probably heavily invested in Bitcoin himself, and he definitely has insider information from Donald Trump. If he knew that Donald Trump wasn't going all in on Bitcoin, he probably wouldn't be making this move. It definitely has a bit of a sketchy vibe because just before Donald Trump's inauguration, Vivek Ramaswamy is putting in this application, and he's definitely the first one to do something like this in this way. Eric Balchunas adds here as well, and here's the exact wording. This is not an ETF that holds all the stocks that have Bitcoin on their balance sheets, as some have demanded, but it's much more specific than that, focusing only on convertible bonds from MicroStrategy and others that follow suit. So if now E.G, another company comes E.G. If another company comes along, like Semler Scientific or any other firm that has a Bitcoin strategy and is also playing the convertible bond game by issuing convertible bonds, then they could also be included in the ETF. This means that the ETF is basically there to represent convertible bonds from different companies. But for now, there are only the convertible bonds from MicroStrategy, and therefore the focus here is clearly on MicroStrategy. Many thought that maybe other companies involved in Bitcoin, like Bitcoin mining or exchanges, would be included, but no, it's only about the bonds, not just any bonds, but specifically the convertible bonds. And now there's criticism because some people might know Nancy Pelosi. There's even a Twitter account called Nancy Pelosi Tracker, since she's used insider information to trade options and buy and sell stocks. Similar accusations are now being thrown at Vivek Ramaswamy. Stackhotler writes that Vivek is getting into the Bitcoin scene, and it's almost like the people closest to Trump know something. The rest of the market still doesn't believe. So either they have insider information, Or it doesn't have to be insider information. It could simply be that they believe in something that other people don't believe in. And that could clearly be the Bitcoin reserve strategy. It could also be something else. It could also simply be the regulatory framework that is opening up further here. And we need to touch on Nancy Pelosi for a second. Nancy Pelosi passed some laws in politics, something I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was about banning electric cars or maybe approving electric cars, some regulation related to electric vehicles. A few hours before that, she traded her stock options according to the regulation, and there have been several stories like that. And it wasn't always Nancy Pelosi herself doing it. Often, it was her husband. That's why she was able to kind of sidestep the scrutiny, and Nancy Pelosi has massively outperformed the market. I don't think she quite matched Bitcoin's performance, but she was making around 40 to 50% a year with her trades. And that's obviously, let's say, really crazy for a politician who works full-time in politics, to be trading options and whatever else. Something similar could happen with Vivek Ramaswamy, although Ramaswamy isn't exploiting any laws. He's basically just tapping into the current sentiment. He's not manipulating any laws or anything like that. He's just looking at what information he has, assessing the situation, and then acting accordingly by launching this ETF. So you can't really put this on the same level as Nancy Pelosi or anything like that, but still, like I said, it's something to view critically. INX actually had a user post something really interesting under this announcement, saying that retail investors now have the opportunity to invest in MicroStrategy convertible bonds through the ETF. Basically, MicroStrategy is going to be the most valuable company on this planet soon, and Bitcoin is going to far surpass gold. Did you all get that? So that's a really crazy prediction here, and I don't think MicroStrategy is going to become the most valuable company in the world overnight, but the signs are definitely looking very bullish right now for MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. And I think we have about 25 days until Donald Trump's inauguration, or rather, when the video goes online, I think it will be another 24 days. So the countdown is on. And there are a lot of expectations, but if those expectations don't pan out, and Donald Trump suddenly says, hey, I'm not really into Bitcoin 2024 anymore, then I can really see a major sell-off happening. Because right now, the Bitcoin price is heavily influenced by the optimism surrounding Trump. And then I got sent a really interesting clip from Arthur Drenkley, who describes Bitcoin really well and explains why you should definitely be looking into Bitcoin right now. Check this out.
We have 4 different income quadrants. Once as a freelancer, as a $1,000 employee, as an investor, or as an entrepreneur. And the bottom 2 quadrants just trade time for money. And when you've traded your time for money, you also want to make sure that in 10 or 20 years, your money is worth something good as a store of value. You won't get that because money is losing its value. The rats of inflation will eat away at your savings in 10 to 20 years. The investor lets money work for money 24 hours a day, while the entrepreneur lets ideas work for money. Around the clock worldwide, and Bitcoin solves that. So, if you manage to get your hands on a Bitcoin, in the coming weeks, months, or years, you're going to build some extraordinary wealth. Don't we just count down? There are only 21 million Bitcoins, and right now there are 60 million millionaires. They can all afford it any time they want, especially if they understand how important Bitcoin is and if everyone just wants to have one Bitcoin. It's not possible at all because there are only 21 million. So use this time now to build your knowledge. Invest in yourself so you have a solid foundation for the future. And Bitcoin allows us to make direct payment pathways. Right now, we can't do business with Iran or Russia. Why? Because the centralized monetary system controls that. With Bitcoin, it's impossible. And for that reason, Trump has, for example, his views on Bitcoin have changed. The largest asset manager in the world, BlackRock, has bought Bitcoins from January 10th to today. January up until today. Bitcoins have been bought. Why? Before, Bitcoin was notorious, was a Ponzi scheme, and suddenly it is being called digital gold by the largest asset manager. Why? Bitcoin strengthens from attacks due to its decentralization. A digital euro is coming. By now, they've realized we can't just get rid of it.
And now they're trying to adopt it. to use it to participate in it, or even to copy it by saying that some digital euro is coming.
That definitely has nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's all centralized. It has nothing to do with the fiat money system, not even close. Bitcoin, there's Bitcoin, and then there are shitcoins.
It doesn't get much more bullish than what was explained here. That's why I'm also super bullish on Bitcoin. That's why maybe some of you are also super bullish on Bitcoin. Feel free to write in the comments below whether you're currently bullish on Bitcoin. I posted yesterday in X that for the average German earner, it takes about 18 years, with a savings rate of around 11 point something %, which is what we have in Germany to accumulate a whole Bitcoin. Let's say the price is fixed, so the price isn't going to rise any further, but we all know that the price will go up sooner or later. And that's the crazy part. If you own a Bitcoin, it's something really, really special. And people will probably look at you in 100 years and say, wow, back then someone in my family owned a whole Bitcoin. And eventually it will be 0.1 Bitcoin. Then the special one in the family will be the person who has 0.1 Bitcoin, and eventually it will be 0.01 Bitcoin. And it will just keep going like this. If you want to buy Bitcoin now, I'll put a link down below to 21 Bitcoin, the easiest way to buy Bitcoin in Europe. Here, you can still get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin with the code BitcoinHotel. I'm signing off here with the flowers from El Salvador. There's more here. Until then, peace out, usend.